All right, Lions fans and One Pride Nation, welcome to this week's episode of Lyons Den Weekly. I have four stories for us this week. This week was a slower week in Detroit Lions news, but I want to start with the signing of another cornerback. Lions have signed cornerback Avonte Maddox. This is according to Lions Wire. It says that the Detroit Lions picked up a Super Bowl winning cornerback on Friday. What does Avonte Maddox bring to Detroit? Maddox, 28, is coming off a Super Bowl win season in Philadelphia. Though used primarily as a nickel in situations throughout last season, he made a key play against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And then down here, let's see what Mike Garafoli says. He says the Eagles' fourth round pick of 2018 moves on to Detroit to join the Lions. Uh, It says that he helped to win the Super Bowl, which we just saw earlier with a good pass defense, and it's just kind of talking about what he did in the Super Bowl. Going down here a little bit, it says Maddox will likely play a similar role in Detroit, bearing any injuries to starters Reed and Tyrion Arnold, though he'll be doing it for his hometown. He is a Detroit native of King High School. So here we go. We're bringing another another Detroit native back home to help the Lions reach the Super Bowl. Let me give some thoughts on Avonte Maddox. I do like the fact that the Lions have brought in another corner. Now, I read last month that they said that the Lions like to have seven corners on the roster. So if you go by what we have now, we have DJ Reed came in through free agency. We have Tyrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw, who we drafted in 2024. That makes three. Uh, we did just sign Khalil Dorsey back, which is a move that you all know that I love. Now we bring in Avonte Maddox, and a little later in the show, I'm going to talk about Rock Ya-Sin, who would make six. So that puts the Lions up at six corners, unless there's somebody I'm forgetting. But like I said, I know they said that the Lions like to keep at least seven corners on the roster, which means that they need to draft a corner to get to that number of seven, which would probably be good to draft a young corner anyway. I do think that Avonte will come in and he can make an impact. I think that he will play in the nickel role. He won't start in the nickel. I'm sorry, guys. Mick Robertson. See, I knew I was forgetting somebody. So we're already at seven corners. So now the Lions may or may not draft a corner in the draft. So right now, I have to say that I actually love the Lions defensive backs room, especially at the corner position. At this point, I don't think there's any need to bring in another corner, as far as the draft would go. I think that you're looking at Reed and Arnold as your starters. I think you're looking at a Mick Robinson probably being your nickel, and then you have the other guys who can fill in. So, what is your thoughts on Avonte Maddox coming to the Lions? Do you like the move? I mean, do you think the move won't hurt anything, or do you think that the move will actually be of a great impact to the Lions? Um, I absolutely think that Khalil Dorsey. Let's talk about the rest of the corners for a minute. Khalil Dorsey is really a better special teams player than he is a corner. He's not a bad corner, but he's a better special teams player. And I think that's the real reason that they brought him back. And as far as Sin, who we will, Ya-Sin, who we will talk about in a little bit, I think it's the same. I think you will see these guys playing more special teams, probably you probably see these guys more when the Lions are more in a dime package. All right, let's move on to our next story. Excuse me, my screen got jammed up there a little bit. Our next story would be the Lions replacing Kevin Zeitler. So I read a story that right here on Stadium Rant that talked about the Lions have their Kevin Zeitler replacement. And that replacement is none other than current Lion Christian Mahogany. Now, at the end of the season, the PFF and of a lot of other channels out there really made a big deal about Mahogany. They said that his ratings were high, that he stepped in and did a very good job for Glasgow, who was out. But as you Lions fans all know, Kevin Zeitler moved on to the Tennessee Titans, which left a hole on the offensive line. Now, my guess is that the reason that the Lions did not re-sign Zeitler is because of his age. If I'm not mistaken, he either is or is going to be 35 by the time the season begins. Maybe the Lions wanted to keep him, but maybe it was a factor of the money, and their thinking was more, we have this young kid who we just drafted. He's probably 22, 23, somewhere in that range. So he is 10 to 12 years Kevin Zeitler's junior, and he might have done good enough that they are confident to put him in the starting position. If what we're hearing about Mahogany is true, then we definitely have either a left or a right guard to replace Zeitler, and we can figure out later on, probably in the draft, what they're going to do about Glasgow. But what is your thoughts on Zeitler? Did you I'm sorry, not Zeitler. What are your thoughts on Mahogany? What are your thoughts on Mahogany coming in and replacing Kevin Zeitler more than likely at that right guard position? Do you think that he will be a good fit, or do you think that the Lions should be looking to bring in one or even two more guards to shore up those two sides of Frank Ragnow? All right, let's move on to our third story. As I mentioned earlier, the Lions have been busy bringing in DBs, particularly corners, and they bring in Rock Ya-Sin. Now, I don't remember what video it was that I did last year, but in 2024, when the Lions were, it was during 2024 free agency, Rock Ya-Sin was one of the guys that I mentioned that the Lions could bring in, and the Lions are indeed bringing him in. Listen, he's not coming in to take anybody's place, but he is coming in to add depth. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the Lions love to have depth at cornerback, and that's pretty much what this uh, signing is right here. Rock Ya-Sin can come in. He will be, your deep corner. He will be your number 4, number 5 corner, and he can help out in the special teams, maybe on the hands team or something like that. But he definitely was in my opinion, he was a good signing, and I want to get your thoughts on it. What do you think about Rock Ya-Sin coming in and playing corner for the Lions? Pretty much I kind of touched on him a little bit earlier when we were talking about Avonte Maddox coming in. So, that's pretty much it on him. And then let's move on to our number 4 story, which is, of course, this is going to happen a lot this time of the year, but you're going to get a lot of NFL draft talks. You're going to get a lot of mock drafts. So this is a mock draft that I saw on NFL News. They actually did, it wasn't just for the Lions. They did a 4-round mock draft, but I am more focused on, what they said about the Lions. So they did a 4-round draft, and let's look at what they had to say or who they had the Lions picking. All right. So we see here that in the first round, we all know that the Lions had the 28th pick, and they have the Lions taking Jonah Zavanaya from Arizona. He is a guard. We just mentioned guards. They said Detroit moves Zavanaya back to right guard, where he started as a freshman before shifting to right tackle for most of his sophomore season and his entire junior campaign. The Dan Campbell's / Brad Holmes Lions have won a lot of games due to their offensive line, so it's important to keep the strength of strength. Now, I got to be honest, I don't know this kid. I don't know his film. I don't know his tape. But I do know that the Lions are in need of a guard. Like I said, if Mahogany is the guy, then you have to determine and decide, is Glasgow going to be the other guy, or do they need to bring a young interior lineman in to strengthen up the offensive line and keep the offensive line a strength? So that's who they have for the Lions in round 1. Give me your thoughts on that. Now we move on to round 2. And let's see what they have. Let's see where we can find the Lions at. I'm trying to remember where our boy's pick is in the second round. Pick 60. So at pick 60, they have the Lions taking James Pierce Jr. Now, this is a kid that I do know about and I do like. He could be a great complement to Aiden Hutchinson on the other side of the D line. Now, some mock drafts have the Lions taking James Pierce Jr. in the first round. But according to this mock draft by NFL.com, they have him sliding into the second round. And actually at the top of the screen, I think I saw something that said Lions in James Pierce slide. Now, this draft here is actually pretty deep with defensive ends / edge rushers. So the Lions could pick up a couple of those guys on the D line in this draft. But right here in the second round, they had them getting James Pierce. And I think that this would be an excellent pick if they can get him to fall to pick 60. All right, let's move on to the third round and see what they have. So the third round starts with pick 65. I want to say because of the Aaron Glenn going to the Jets, we got a third round pick. It was a compensatory pick, I believe, but I believe we got a third round pick. So let's scroll down and see. Okay, I'm already at pick 93. Okay, I don't know why they're doing projected trades, but they are. And now we're down to the compensatory pick. Maybe I was mistaken, Lions fans. I thought, oh, never mind. I guess if I'd have kept scrolling, I would have saw it. All the way at the end of the third round, the Lions do have a compensatory pick, and they had the Lions taking wide receiver Jalen Royals out of Utah State. I do think that it's a big deal. Let's see if I can pull something up about this young man, like his stats or something. That's okay. He's 6 feet tall now.
Jalen Royals.
There's a lot of
It
love.
is a good idea for the Lions to take another receiver. But this kid is 6 feet. I really want to see them get a bigger receiver, but I suppose that Tim Patrick is going to cover that role as the number 3 receiver. And then let's see what they have for our boys in the fourth round. All right, let's see. The fourth round begins with pick 103. And let's scroll down and see. Do our Lions have a fourth round pick this year? I know our picks were kind of scattered this year because, okay, there we go. So the Lions do have a fourth round pick. Now, this is another kid that I know. They have the Lions taking cornerback Jason Marshall Jr. out of Florida. Let me see, make sure there wasn't another pick down here that I might be missing. Nope, that was it. That was it. So we could talk a little bit about young James Marshall. So even though the Lions are right now at 7 corners, they have the Lions projected to take Jay. I thought Jason Marshall was a little bit taller than that. 6 feet, 194. Not bad, but for some reason I was thinking he was 1 and a half to 6'2". But it won't hurt for the Lions to bring in another young corner. And this is not a too bad of a mock draft. They had the Lions taking a guard in the first round, an edge rusher in the second round, a receiver in the third, and a corner in the fourth. So that is not this is not a bad mock draft. Now, to be honest, let's go back to the first round. Let's go back to the early second round, because I want to see if there's somebody who they may have overlooked who the Lions could have taken maybe late in the first round. I'm not saying not to get a guard. I'm saying that there could be somebody who, excuse me, who they may have overlooked in these. Let's just look at the first few picks. And so let's pick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's just look at the first 7, 8 picks. So not really. There's not really anyone. There's a guard. There's an edge. This kid right here, Tumaloa out of Ohio State. I mean, if you think that he is better than James Pierce, that's a guy that you could take at the end of the first round. I don't really see anybody here unless they wanted to really just overpower the offense to take a kid like right here, Luther Burden the third, instead of taking the receiver in the third round. Maybe you take him at the end of the first. I know that is not a pressing need, but this kid is a very good receiver. Yes, he is kind of a slot-ish type of receiver like Amon-Ra St. Brown, but he could definitely get in there and get some help, and pretty much open up that offense. So he could kind of be kind of like a tight end. What I mean by that is, of course, I don't mean by his size, but I'm saying like you could put him opposite of our tight ends, and he could do some damage maybe in that slot. And you could have, let's say, Williams, and you have St. Brown on the outside. You put a kid like that in the slot. You bring in Tim Patrick, when you need to go big. Those are just some thoughts, but I think that out of anybody, you could probably go with the defensive end out of Ohio State if you just wanted to have someone else in there. All right, Lions fans, that's pretty much it for this week's episode of Lyons Den Weekly. What do you think about the stories we presented? As you see on the screen right there, there's our TikTok. If you haven't already, go over there and give us a follow. Scrolling at the bottom of the screen is our Twitter/X page. If you haven't, give us a follow over there as well, and on our YouTube page. If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, and you know what? Hit the notification bell so every time that we post, you can keep talking Lions football with us. Pretty much that's it for this week's episode. That's all. Until next time, peace.